Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Chad Richards.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Saturday morning session. Did you all have a great time at our stamp night last night? That was fantastic, wasn't it? Well, we really got a great morning planned for you today. Our keynote speaker is someone we think you're really going to like. He's a motivational speaker and author. His books have appeared on the New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestseller lists. He's been seen on C-SPAN, CNN, Fox News, and on local television affiliates around the country. He's also been known to show up at bookstores and book clubs, even the occasional Stampin' Up workshop, often uninvited. He's not only a talented writer and speaker, but has an uncanny ability to connect with complete strangers. However, he's horrible at setting people up on blind dates. Jason loves people, gummy bears, and the guy who eats buffalo wings right before boarding a flight. Not necessarily in that order. Join me in welcoming Jason Wright.
What kind of a crazy intro was that? Seriously. Buffalo, by the way, there's a story about the buffalo wings on a flight. I'll tell you that some other time, but it's a good one. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm excited to be here now. I've known I was coming for quite some time, and there's only one thing wrong with this weekend, and that's that my wife is not here. I know. She was planning on coming until the very last minute, and then we couldn't make it work. So would you mind just doing me a favor real quick? I'm going to say hello to her. I'm going to shoot a little clip. Then when I turn the camera around to you, will you just say, "Wish you were here, Cody"? Can you do that? Should we practice?
Wish you were here, Cody.
Nailed. Someone right here was off, but the rest of you, nailed. All right. Let's see, just bear with me here. All right. Hey, Code. So I met some pretty cool people here in Florida, and a couple of crazy people, but mostly cool people. And a couple of them wanted to say hey, real quick. Thank you. That was fantastic. Oh, thank you. I am grateful that I've got the best wife. So I understand we're live streaming, which is pretty cool, right? Hi. Hey, everybody at home. Hey. I can't hear you. It's just a one-way thing. I don't know why you're waving back at me. Hi. Hi. Why are you in your pajamas? Are those, what is that? Oh, those are not pajamas. Woo! I am so excited to be here. And before we really dive into our time together, I want to just take a minute to describe for you my perfect day. All right? So just walk with me here for a minute as we jump inside what the ideal day for me might look like. It's a Saturday, of course. I travel a lot during the week, and I'm not home to kind of be there when the mail comes, right? On Saturdays, I'm usually home when the mail comes. So let's just imagine it's 70. I live in Virginia. It's 70. There's a little breeze. And I'm outside in the yard. I'm playing catch with my kids, maybe. And the breeze is just right. There's a little whiff of gummy bear in the air. And it's early afternoon, and all is right with the world. Now, a mail truck has a really unusual and cool and unique sound, right? The little truck, and I can hear it from like 15 miles away. And it's not like a car. And it's not like a big semi that carries the mail on the interstate. Think of it like this. I've never actually said this out loud, so bear with me. But if like a big mail truck and a little bitty car like went to dinner and then got married and had a little baby, it would be like a little mail truck. Or it could be a little girl truck, but it's a mail truck. It's not that kind of mail. It's a mail that you like. It's a truck, right? With the little sound as it kind of hums down the road. So I hear it coming, and my kids look at me because they know the race is on. But if they move first, it's not going to be pretty. We can see the truck come up. It comes from our left, where our home is situated, up a little rise in the road. And I look at my kids. Dun, dun. Dun, dun. They're looking at me. My boys especially love this game. Truck comes up. We give her a little bit of space. She knows the drill. She opens the door. The mail goes in. She races off. She wants no part of this. There are liability issues, right? I look at my boys. They look at me. Bam! I am off to the mailbox. Now, I'm not saying that I would trip my own kid. Who does that? I mean, that's so inappropriate. I mean, the grass is soft anyway, so it's not a big deal. I've done it. All right, you got me. I've tripped my kids. My heavens, judgmental. So I get to the mailbox. Now, we have a little metal box with the little metal clasp at the top. And it makes the coolest sound. Am I weird that I like this little creak? Will you do that with me? Will you just grab the thing? We're not going to move on until you're all doing it. So grab the little thing. None of you are doing it. Get on. You're not going on the cruise. Grab the thing. You want to go on the cruise, you grab the thing. All right, do it with me. Ready? You reach your hand in and you pull out a big stack of mail. There are catalogs and credit card bills and credit card offers and delinquency notices from the credit card companies. There's a Stampin' Up catalog. There's so much cool stuff, right? But then, underneath that Stampin' Up catalog, there's a little envelope about this big. And you know what? It's an actual letter. It's a letter. Your name hasn't been typed on the front with a computer. The return address isn't stamped. It hasn't been metered or bulk rate stamped. It's your name written in handwriting, a return address in handwriting, a real letter. Did you know people still do that? Yeah. You knew that. Now, if you're like me, often I read that right there and right then. And it frankly doesn't matter what's happening around me at this point. That is my love affair and romance with handwritten letters. I mean, there could be the neighborhood is falling apart. There is massive violence all around me. There's a tornado at the neighbor's home, and it's picked the kid up, and he's going to be fine. He's just going to take him across town and drop him in a neighbor's yard. And you know what? They've got a bigger yard anyway and a dog, so he's going to be fine. He's fine, but he's out of the picture. And amid all this mayhem, I'm there with my letter. There is something magical about a handwritten letter, is there not? All right. Now, when I got this invitation to come several months ago, I called Angela and Donna at the home office. I said, I need to go out and I need to sort of see what this is all about, right? Do a little bit of research. So the first thing I said is, let me get a sense for the mission statement. To love what we do and share what we love as we help others enjoy creativity and worthwhile accomplishments. In this, we make a difference. And I want you to capture those last few words today because we'll be back to those. In this, we make a difference. Are you making a difference? Well, I needed to get kind of hands-on, right? So I accepted an invitation to attend Stamp Camp, which is a thing, with my good friend Buffet in Winchester, Virginia. Look, there I am. Yeah. They let me use scissors, which is cool because I haven't used scissors since the incident in the 3rd grade, but we don't have time for that. So I just want to walk you through this experience a little bit. So I made the card inside out because I thought it went like that. Yeah. But it's actually pretty easy to fix. You just like that. Yeah, look at the look she is giving, like, really? Really? I asked for an action shot. Is that an action shot or what? Look at the concentration on her face. She is so locked in. Now, that thing is cool. I mean, that is cool. What you're seeing right here is I'm asking, could this actually crush my fingers? And the answer is yes, it could. Is that awesome? Even babies can stamp. Look at that. And by the way, I have that same tattoo. I made that! What? Are you kidding me? I made that! That is so cool. I came home, I showed that to my 16-year-old daughter. She's like, whatever, you didn't make that. Yes, I did. We made a little candy basket, which I didn't know was also a thing, right? We made that, and it took forever. How do we know that it took forever? Because I grew a mustache. Crazy. Woo. Yeah, I just shaved that this morning. Weird. So I included this one because look at Grandma's face. This is Grandma and her little grandbaby. Look at that face. That, by the way, that is making a difference. That's not a hairdryer. It's not. It is not a hairdryer. And Buffy told me that if I told you that was a hairdryer, I could get sued. So that is not a hairdryer. It is, however, very hot. Final shot. Look how happy we are there. I survived. Yes. We had so much fun, and this was a stamp camp, as you know, and I thought, well, now it's time to go down to Mount Jackson, Virginia. Give it up for the crazy ladies from Mount Jackson. And attend a downline meeting. So let me walk you through this experience. I'm sorry, that's everything I made in Winchester. Look at that. How cool is that? Oh, I'm sorry, I napped at the end. I'm sorry. It was grueling. I took the baby's blanket and I forgot I put that in there. This is kind of awkward, I think, for all of us, so we'll go on. Sally, love you. So at the beginning of the meeting, they went through sort of some of the business aspects of what they were doing and some of the new products and things that were coming out. They talked a little bit, in fact, about leadership and what would be happening here. It was fascinating to see the passion, not just for the creative side of what you do, but for the business side of what you do, because I hadn't seen that before. That was really cool. Now, Sally walked me through making this first little item here, and just a series of slides that show her building frustration with me. So right here, she's trying to decide whether to ask me to leave. Here she has asked me to leave. Yeah, not invited back, but we had fun. So look at the form on my left hand. Have you seen that kind of form before? I mean, I made that my screensaver. I love that. Now, there was glitter. I just want you to know this was kind of my first real experience with glitter on any kind of mass scale. I just said my first experience with glitter and someone shrieked, "No!" Yes, I was. I just want the ladies in Mount Jackson to know that night, in all seriousness, I found glitter in places you don't talk about at parties. Yeah. Yeah. I made that. Check that out. I made that. Not the sweater. She did that. The sweater's hers. I made the card. How cool is that? Look at that. Yeah. She was a little challenging to work with, but I came out with a pretty nice product. Rose Ellen. All right. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I got to go back. Do I look like a pirate in this picture? I do, don't I? Yeah, just checking. The obligatory group shot here at the end, I included this because, well, I said kind of casually to be fun and funny, I should just lay across all of you guys, right? I mean, that would be, and they're like, why would we do that? That's weird, right? Right? It actually turned out to be a blessing because we dislodged some of the glitter, so. Yeah. All right, now I went home, and I said, my wife's gone, and she's running some errands. I'm going to do something I'm not supposed to do. I hope she's not watching on the, are you watching on the live stream at home, Cody? I broke into the craft room. Those were knowing sighs of folks whose husbands and wives had broken into their crafts. So this is me being busted. That's my busted face. Does that look busted? Does that look like? You're going to enjoy, I think, the process of my first solo card. Notice some of the supplies. I've taken some of her Stampin' Up! Supplies and included a few of my own, which is pretty obvious, I think, here. That's a lucky charm. I don't know. It just is. They're magically delicious, so of course you include them. Now, you might be asking yourself, is that a tater tot? Yeah, it is. But demonstrators, I have a very exciting announcement for you. This is actually the big news to come out of leadership this weekend for 2015. Stampin' Up! Is proud to announce the rollout of Stampin' Up! Tater Tots. Look at that. Yeah. They're calling them Stampin' Tots. Yeah, I haven't decided for sure. They're noodling around some names. It's kind of our brainstorming things, but those are approved. I don't know. Somehow I got something in the hair. There's a gummy bear there, I think. And the finished product. It doesn't look quite like I thought it would, but my wife came home, stepped in and said, you know what? Let me help you out a little bit. Yeah. That look on my face, right? That look is because I'm looking at the woman I really, really love. Look at that. So that is my Valentine's Day card. All right, now, to love what we do and share what we love as we help others enjoy creativity and worthwhile accomplishments. In this, we make a difference. My second novel was called The Wednesday Letters, and it's about a couple that at the very beginning of the book, they have retired and purchased a bed and breakfast to sort of pass away the rest of their lives together. It's been their dream. Well, on page 2 of the book, this husband and wife die on the same night of different causes, and this brings their 3 grown children home, back to the small town and to the bed and breakfast to deal with the funeral arrangements and what will come next with this family business. On those days leading up to the funeral, they go into the basement to look for some family records and tax records, and they find some boxes of letters. It turns out that their dad, had been writing their mother a letter on every Wednesday of their entire marriage for 39 years. Now they begin to read through these letters. Some are interesting, some are not really interesting, some are shocking. Some rock the foundation of the family and who they are and who they think they are. I had that story in my mind for years. Since I was very young, I wanted to tell that kind of a story. That goes to the affection that I have always felt for the handwritten letter, for that thing that you make that you create, that you send, that you know brings joy and satisfaction on the other end, that has always been really, really important to me. And so I wrote this novel. Shortly after the book came out, I was invited to attend and appear on a national television show out of New York. I will never forget getting on a plane in D.C., flying up to New York, landing. They sent a car. I got in the car. I was riding from JFK downtown. And as I started to make that trip down into Manhattan, I thought, I want to do something different. I want to hear from people. I want to know, am I the only one? Are there people that agree with me that we have stepped too far into technology? We love it. It's great. Email is wonderful. Facebook is fantastic. But have we gone too far? Have we forgotten the magic? I heard a yes. Can I get an amen? Yes, we have. And so this idea began to form in my head. I got down to the studio and I mentioned to the producers, who then mentioned to the host, and the interview began. There's only a 4 or 5 minute interview, and at the end, the host looked at me and said, "Now, I understand that there's something a little different you want to do. Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I feel really good about this. I want to hear from your viewers. Do they agree? Do they have a story? Do they have a story of a letter or a series of letters that has impacted their life in a significant way, even changed their life?" And so I looked into the camera, and I gave out my cell phone number. Yeah, I gave out my cell phone number on national television, and I said, "Call me." I was excited. The interview had gone well. I got back in the car, back to the airport, back on the plane. I flew home, all in about a 10-hour period of time. And I hit the tarmac in D.C. I turn my phone on. I'm making my way slowly back out to the daily parking garage. And all of a sudden, I get this call on my phone. And it's from a number I don't recognize. And I'm like, I ain't answering that. And as soon as I hit the it rang again. And I'm like, what? No, thank you. And then instantly, it's ringing again. And I look at it and I go, oh. Demonstrators, the calls came so quickly that I was told later by AT&T, my provider, that they couldn't track them all when I saw my bill. When I finally was able to answer a call, sitting in my car in this parking garage at the airport, it was quiet at first on the other end. And then I heard an old, elderly man whose voice was experienced with age and life and hurt. And he said, "Mr. Wright, I saw you on television tonight. I'm sitting on my couch. I've just buried my wife. And I feel really alone. But I have next to me, even now as I'm on the phone, I have next to me a box of letters. Every single letter that my wife sent of our entire marriage, everything she put her hand to, I've got in a box. And as I saw you on television, I was sitting here reading those letters from my wife. I do it because they bring her back to me. She's here with me as I read them. Without them, I don't know that I could go on." "Yes," he said, "we have gotten too far away from this." I hope that good woman knows that she made a difference in the life of a man who will now live for some time without her. In this, she made a difference. The calls came, call after call, thousands of calls. Every single person who left me a message and said they wanted a call back to share their story eventually got a call back from me. Thousands of phone calls. It took 6 months to call everybody back. One of those calls came from a woman who has now become a very dear friend of mine. It began with a call and then a series of emails. Her name is Kelly. Kelly called to tell me a very special story about a very special collection of letters that's changed her life. Kelly grew up with her very best friend, Liz, in New York. They were inseparable. But it was tough because during the summer, Liz would go away to Pennsylvania to her grandparents' farm. And she would spend several months on her grandparents' farm just doing what kids do, having a good time, learning a little bit about farming and nature and being outside and away from the city. When they were apart, what did they do? They wrote letters back and forth all summer long. Kelly and Liz corresponding about what was happening here and what was happening here. The letters shortened the distance. In fact, eliminated the distance between the two best friends during those months. They were together when the letters came. And then when fall came, they were together again in school and growing up. This went on until high school and then college, and then they went their own ways and became involved in career and family. Kelly was excited because her good friend, her still best friend, Liz, had the most exciting job opportunity, working for a company that was opening a new store in California. And it meant flying from one side of the country to the other for a really important job opportunity. A huge career step for her. You can imagine how excited Kelly was for her friend to get on that plane and fly from east to west. Kelly was watching television, and the date was September 11th, 2001, and her heart sank when she recognized the flight number. Her friend, her near sister, really, had been on Flight 93 and had been killed when that plane went down in a field in Pennsylvania, not far from where that young girl had spent her summers as a child, near her grandparents' home. She did the only thing she could think of. She got in her car and she went to her mother and father's house. And she went into her whole bedroom and into the closet, and she pulled out boxes of letters. And she sat for hours, even days, pouring through letter after letter from her dear friend. Those letters healed her. She still misses her, of course, wouldn't you? But the letters have shortened, even eliminated at times, the distance between one who is here and one who has gone on. If Kelly were here today, she'd say she has only made it through these days and years since 9/11 because of those letters, saved each and every one. I heard from so many people with the most inspiring stories. I heard from military families who told me we only got through deployment because of letters. Now, the emails were nice. The Skype sessions once a day, once every couple of days, those were nice. But when a military family gets an envelope from over there, and there's a little bit of sand in it, a little bit of grit, a little bit of him or her who wrote it, think about that. When you write a letter, you are leaving a bit of yourself literally on the paper. Isn't that beautiful? Email doesn't convey that. It's wonderful, it's convenient, it's quick. But to send a piece of yourself from one continent to another, it means this. I heard from families that had been fighting for decades, who had finally sat to say those hard things they couldn't bring themselves to say face to face on paper. Relationships had been healed for now and forever because someone sat at the table with a card and a pen and said some hard things. I think more than anything, what I learned through this experience is that we've all got a story. Every single one of us has a story about a card or a letter or a series of cards or letters that came at just the right time. When someone was inspired, whether they lived next door or in the next state or on the other side of the world, inspired to send you a note that says, I see you, I'm aware of you, I know what you're going through. Think of it. How do you comfort your best friend whose mother is going through breast cancer for the second time and it doesn't look good, and she lives on the other side of the country? You make a card. You send a card. How do you congratulate your nephew who's just gotten into college, and he's the first in his family, in his immediate family, to ever go to college? You make a card. You send a card. You inspire others to make cards and to send cards. How do you console a college roommate who's been trying to get pregnant for a decade? A decade. And they've just been told that their last best shot, this was it. If this doesn't work, you're just not going to have children in this life. How do you console that friend? You make a card, you send a card, you send a bit of yourself. When I was 14, I had a really, really neat experience to go to a church youth conference for 3 days in a state park in Southwest Virginia. I was excited because it was my first as a freshman in high school, and it was my sister's last as a graduating senior. The only time we got to go together to one of these events. On the last day, a Saturday morning, there were about 100 of us, and divided into little families. And our ma and pa, for the weekend, pulled us each aside and gave us an envelope. Didn't tell us what was inside. They just said, here, this is for you. You're going to go hike off into this wooded area where you're not going to be able to see anyone. And if you can, you keep hiking. Go until you can't see a soul. Look at your watch. Open the envelope. Process the envelope. And then come back to our little home base. And I walked for a bit with my sister, and then she peeled off one way and I went another. I found the most enormous boulder, and I climbed up on it and I sat. And I opened this kind of nondescript white envelope, and inside found a letter from my father. The letter told me that he knew that it was tough. He knew that it was tough to be the child of a father with cancer. He wanted me to know that it was going to be okay, and that I was going to feel alone, but that I shouldn't. He wanted me to know that I was going to miss him, but that it would be okay. I'd see him again. He wanted me to just know that I was loved, that I was surrounded by love. I wish I had that letter today. I can't tell you how much I wish I had saved that letter. I didn't really know then what I know now. So I went on Facebook this week, and I wanted to hear from some of you. I wanted to hear your experiences of a letter or a series of letters that had impacted you. I wish I could share them all with you today. I really, really do. But I have selected a few, and if you don't mind, I would like to read those for you. And as I read them, I want you to think also about your own life, your own letters, those that you work with, those in your business, and their stories, and your stories. The first comes from my good friend, Rose Ellen. I remember when my daughter was going through her cancer treatments. Meeting with my stamp club ladies during that difficult time was my therapy. One time, Shannon, our daughter, got admitted to the hospital at the 11th hour, and I couldn't attend the stamp club. Now, keep in mind that I create the cards, I prep for the class, and I come with all the supplies. Well, they got together anyway. They brought their own supplies, and they stamped for hours. When we got out of the hospital, my stamping friends presented me with a large box of homemade cards that were just perfect for us to send to everyone that was bringing meals, babysitting, our other 3 girls, or simply saying prayers for us. I'm so thankful for my stamping friends and for Stampin' Up for nourishing these relationships. Can anyone relate to that? This one comes from Lot. In 2008, on a Tuesday, my dad got his new stand-up chair that would make getting out of his chair easier. He made a picture, printed it out, and put it in a card and sent it to us with the words, "I love it. This will make life much easier." Unfortunately, the next day, he died suddenly of a heart attack. So on Thursday, while I was caught up in all the arrangements for his funeral, I received his card in the mail. Of course, I had to cry, but I was happy. I knew he was in a happy place just before he died. That is beautiful. This comes from Patricia, who I think is watching on the live feed. The best part about Stampin' Up is that it's something that my mother and I do together. Can any of you relate to that? It gives us time to be together, to relax, to be creative, and to have fun. I have always appreciated the amazing mother that I have, but as she gets older, she's 78, I appreciate those moments even more. Every time we make a card or work on a project, I'm reminded just how creative she is and how much I still have to learn from her. I'm impressed with her patience and her diligence at getting every line perfectly straight on a card, even though her hands shake just a bit. As we work, we talk about everything important and unimportant, and I love that Stampin' Up has provided us with such a fun, addictive activity that allows us to spend quality time together. This is from Leanne, who I also believe is watching on the live feed. Hi, Leanne. I've been a Stampin' Up demonstrator in the Kansas City area for more than 8 years. I'm proud to say that my customers and I have been supporters of several Cards for the Troops programs for about as long. We are doing our part to help our servicemen and women stay close to their loved ones through handcrafted cards with heartfelt, handwritten messages. Thank you, Leanne, for that. This is from Kathy, and I just love this because it says so much about the potential and the importance of what you do. Remember those lines I asked you to remember? In this we make a difference? Remember that. And hear this from Kathy. I teach English for speakers of other languages to adult immigrant students from many countries. I use my Stampin' Up tools and materials to help build emotional intelligence and to teach my students how to write. Are you listening? How cool is this? Using Stampin' Up materials to teach these kids how to write. When I first began working with immigrant children, I saw many who were suffering from PTSD. I did some research into building emotional intelligence so that I could weave this into my instruction as part of our summer school program and after-school tutoring. The results were amazing. Not only did the students enjoy making their scrapbooks, they began using the pages to write about the difficult things they were going through, the obstacles they faced in coming to the United States, and how they were determined to overcome these obstacles and be successful as they pursued their education. A round of applause, please, for Kathy. Isn't that wonderful? Is she making a difference? Yes, she is. And this from Michelle. I have 3 children, Brittany, 25, Lindsay, 23, and Zach, 21. Brittany is happily married and expecting our first grandchild in just a few weeks. Lindsay and Zach are both autistic and fall at different ends of the spectrum. When Lindsay and Zach were very small, I was a stay-at-home mom, and it was overwhelming. I rarely went out. It became hard for me to even go to the store, and I started having really bad anxiety. It was so overwhelming dealing with two kids with special needs, and it wasn't like everything in the pregnancy books. It wasn't what the other moms were talking about when we'd visit. Their kids would laugh, and they would play together, and mine, they just preferred to play alone. Why? I'd done everything I was told. I had followed all of the rules. Well, today, they're beautiful. They're healthy. They're loving. They're sweet young adults. And now, they both leave me feeling truly blessed beyond measure. So, back then, I had this amazing friend who was always there for me during the long days and nights during my kid's diagnosis, and she was incredibly supportive. One day, she called and invited me to something called a Stampin' Up workshop. She and I shared a love of all things crafty, and this new thing had to do with this rubber stamping that was becoming all the rage. Well, I went, and I fell in love. I loved the images, the projects, the colors. I loved all of it. I even bought a few things to get started, and I was hooked. I even still have that button bear stamp set. I have no idea what that means. I don't know. I don't know what that means, but you do, so that's cool. This was my way to escape, and it felt like someone had opened a window and let a warm breeze in. Is she making a difference? A warm breeze in to her life. I love that. Just a few stamps and ink breathe life into my creative soul and let me express myself. It felt so good to make cards and gifts and to feel accomplished. Little did I know, listen, little did I know that a single workshop would change my life forever. Fast forward to the present. And I am a very happy Stampin' Up demonstrator that is slowly but surely building my business, and that sweet friend is now in my downline. She now comes to my house to stamp, and I'm able to offer her a creative escape from her daily grind. It is magical. Through Stampin' Up, I have been blessed by lots of fellow demo moms with special needs who have found me through a card or a project and have posted online, and we've connected and supported each other through this journey that none of us imagined, but that we find ourselves dealing with daily. I just think about it some days, and I am so glad that I went to that little workshop. That has blessed my life in ways I could never have imagined. When you are at those workshops and you have those demonstrators gathered around your tables, will you remember those stories? Will you remember that you are indeed making a difference? Now, I told you when I was 14 I got that letter that I don't have. It breaks my heart today to know that I carelessly left that somewhere and it probably got tossed in the trash. 2 years later, on a Friday night in December, I was home with my older brother and my older sister. My oldest brother was married and was at the hospital with my dad and my mom. My dad was in for some tests before an exploratory surgery the next day to see what they could do about the cancer that had returned again. And the phone rang, and my oldest brother said, get in the car and get here as fast as you can. Dad's heart has stopped beating. And my brother put us in his little Chevette, and he drove a lot faster than a Chevette is supposed to go. And we got to the hospital, and we parked in an employee lot on the side of the wing where he was at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And I don't know why they went in one door and I went in another, but it meant that we went up opposite staircases to my dad's floor. And my oldest brother was standing at the top of the stairs that I happened to come out of. And he looked me in the eyes and he just said, he's gone. And I just wish I'd had that letter. I just wish I'd had that letter. The holidays were tough, but we made it through. I had a loving family and a wonderful mother and wonderful siblings, a good support group at church. And then finally I went back to school in January, and it was tough. Walking through those halls was maybe the toughest thing I've ever done. I'd been back to school a couple of days when my English teacher and my speech and debate coach pulled me into her office and handed me an envelope with a letter. She wanted to make a difference, and I want to share that letter with you. This week, as well as past weeks, has been tougher for you than anyone can imagine. All of us are so proud of you for your mature handling of your father's long illness. I know that at times like these, people justifiably become angry at the world, at God, at themselves, at the person who is dying, and people understandably feel guilty for having that anger. Some people like to talk about it, and some prefer to guard their feelings with silence. Whichever way you take, I'll certainly support. Please remember that you have a willing ear in me. I'll throw everyone out and lock the door. If we need to talk, just let me know. I don't know how your beliefs are holding up right now, whether you are doubtful as a result of your father's progressing pain or reaffirmed in your beliefs because of the support of your church group. But for what it's worth, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I believe. Maybe it will help you figure things out, or I hope comfort you a little. I believe that your father, at his death, will go to be with the angels in a place, heaven if you like, where he can continue to grow and to learn and every moment come closer to God. He will be very happy and soon forget any of the pain in this life. And when you awaken there, Jason, he will be there to grab you up in his arms and to welcome you. What a joyous meeting that will be. I also believe that people set it in their hearts to align their wills with God's will, to live their lives as gifts offered up to God, will not necessarily find their lives to run smoothly and trouble-free. Because we grow through struggle, Jason. Getting through the next year and becoming emotionally whole again will be one of your great life tasks. I know you can see that underlined. Great life tasks. And God has given you the gift of loving friends and family members for you to go to when it seems too hard for you to handle alone. You will certainly succeed. And always remember, my dear, you are surrounded by love. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got that letter. That letter changed my life. It changed my life. It was still tough. The days that came, the weeks, the months that came, they were difficult. So often I referred back to wise counsel from a teacher and a friend and a mentor who loved me, who took the time to put her hand on a piece of paper and to spell out for me what I would later need to know, what I didn't even know I needed to know. I have read that letter hundreds of times, hundreds and hundreds of times. I had the opportunity recently to go to breakfast with that woman. Her name is Charlotte Wellen, and she is an administrator at a school, high school in Charlottesville, Virginia, where we first met, those many years ago in 1985. We sat over a plate of pancakes at a Waffle House just off campus near the University of Virginia. And she wanted to know how I'd been, how my family was, how my career had going. She wanted to express her just such pride and pleasure and satisfaction that I hadn't turned out to be the knucklehead she long predicted I would. I looked across the table at that good woman, and I pulled that letter out of my pocket. And I said, thank you. Thank you for taking time when you had so many other things that you could have been doing, so many other places you could have been, to rescue the one, to see me and to know that I would need this then and now. And we just wept together. And it is one of my all-time favorite memories in this life and even in the life to come, is that moment with that woman who made a significant sacrifice on a piece of paper that is tear-stained and that has blessed my life forever. Thank you. Now, to do what we do, to love what we do, and share what we love, as we help others enjoy creativity and worthwhile accomplishments. In this, we make a difference. I want you to say that with me. To love what we do, so when I was introduced to this, I said, that is the coolest mission statement. Don't call it a mission statement. It's a statement of the heart. Now, I'll be honest. When they said that, I thought, I'm not sure I get it. But then I went to Winchester, Virginia, and met Buffy. And then I went to Mount Jackson and met Sally. And then I began hearing from you and from many others who shared their stories. And now I know, now I really, really know, that is truly a statement of the heart. It doesn't just guide what you do, it is what you do. It doesn't guide your projects, it's in you. And you have such a significant opportunity, even a responsibility, because you're here in the room today to share this with all those you come in contact with. As you build your business, large and small, remember that. Remember the difference you are making. And finally, as we close, I just want you to consider all of the world's most important founding documents. All of them were written by hand. The scriptures, the Bible, by hand. Paper, papyrus, stone, plates, tablets, all of it by hand. The founding documents of this country and all countries, those documents written by hand. I mean, can you imagine Thomas Jefferson at Monticello sitting there in his little office on his iMac? That's a Slurpee, like if he needed like a... I mean, can you imagine that? And he drafts it, and then he emails it off to his boys. I've just finished my first draft of the Declaration. Would appreciate your comments. LOL, right? And then what does Tom do? Does he go post on Facebook? Does he go on Twitter? He's probably a Twitter guy, right? Jefferson goes on Twitter, and he says, just knocked out the Declaration of Independence, hashtag freedom, hashtag July 4th, hashtag Taco Tuesday. No! No! We line up to see those documents because we know We know when we're looking at the Declaration of Independence or any document from that time, we know that their hands ran across the paper. They left a piece of themselves on that paper. Would we line up? Would we line up to see the Bill of Rights if it had been printed on a dot matrix printer in your basement? We would not. There is magic, ladies and gentlemen, magic in the things that we make and send and receive by hand. Why is that declaration important to us to see? Because it shrinks the distance between us and them. The card you're going to send your friend this weekend who's on the other side of the country, who's dying, whose child is dying, whose husband has lost his job, whose nephew just got into college, who's struggling to get pregnant, that card you send is going to shrink the distance between you and them because it's a piece of you. Remember that. To love what we do and share what we love. In this, you make a difference. And finally, a big thank you to you, to Shelley, to the entire team at Stampin' Up. Thank you so much for having me today. This has been an honor.